We are told there are new shocking details on Iran's treatment of U.S. sailors captured earlier this year. But you will not hear about them for quite some time. Many of the details are being withheld by the Obama administration. In an interview with the Washington Free Beacon, House Armed Services Committee member Randy Forbes says that the true story, when everyone learns this, is going to be quite revealing and, he believes, shocking. You're going to remember the tense situation that unfolded, and remember also that this was the same day that President Obama was preparing for a State of the Union address that night. He did not mention the soldiers in that speech, or the sailors, we should say, in that speech. But Secretary John Kerry actually thanked Iran for the treatment of our sailors in this moment. Watch.
I also want to thank the Iranian authorities for their cooperation and quick response. All indications suggest or tell us that our sailors were well taken care of, provided with blankets and food, and assisted with their return to the fleet earlier today.
Congressman Randy Forbes is also chairman of the House Armed Services, Sea Power, and Projection Forces Committee, and he joins me now. Congressman, welcome. Good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you, Martha. Good to be with you.
What was the nature of your briefing?
Well, Martha, we wanted to see what happened in this situation. And again, there's a couple of things. It wasn't just what the Iranians did. It was our response to what the Iranians did that I think is going to be very, very concerning when those details come out. And Martha, you have to look at this on a backdrop. The Iranians were actually doing live firing within 1,500 yards of our ships right before this. They have had planes sail over our ships. They capture our sailors. What do? We do nothing. We write them a check for $100 billion. Secretary Kerry thanks them for what they did. And now they are demanding that the United States actually get out of the Arabian Gulf, or they threaten to sink the Strait of Hormuz. And Martha, you have to look at that also with what we're doing globally. The Russians buzz our ships. We do nothing. Hong Kong tells us we can't do a port call, and we do nothing. And give that on the backdrop of what this president has done to our military. In 2007, when he came in office, Martha, the Navy was able to meet 90% of our combatant commanders' needs around the globe. This year, we will meet 43%. And the administration literally wanted to take 1/12 of our fleet out this year, and fortunately, Congress was able to stop them.
So are you saying that the nature of what people will find surprising is not that there's additional information about how the sailors were treated?
I think that what they will find is that this was done totally against international and maritime law. I think in addition to that, I think they will find the whole situation of how we responded during that incident and around that situation, I think, to be both shocking and appalling when they get all of the details out. That's why we've encouraged members of Congress to actually get that briefing so they can see firsthand for themselves.
All right. So when will the information, and you know, it's shocking enough when you look back at this video and you see our sailors on their knees with their hands behind their heads, and you look at the international law that was breached, as you point out, in terms of how they were handled, because they should have, according to international law, been told to turn around and leave, correct?
Well, Martha, I can't give you the details because of the classified, but let me just tell you, when you see the details of what happened and how it happened, it's going to be very, very concerning to you, both what the Iranians did, which there will be more there than what you've already said or seen, but the second thing is our entire response to handling that would be very, very concerning, I think, to you and to the American people and to members of Congress. You know,
one thing that came to my mind when I was reading about this and remembering that day is the Ben Rhodes profile that was done in the New York Times, because during that piece, he talks about writing and editing the President's State of the Union address, and they were under a lot of pressure because this was happening at that same time. And he says, you know, it's the middle of the night in Iran, and he's concerned about whether or not they should include something in this speech about the fact that our sailors are being paraded and down on their knees and their hands behind their heads with a country that we had just struck a deal with. It was an astonishing moment. Do you think it was wrong of the President not to talk about it that night in the speech?
Martha, I not only think it was wrong, but I remember being there that night, and every single person that I talked to, actually on both sides of the aisle, was wondering, why didn't the president mention this? Why didn't he even talk about it? And of course, we didn't have all the details at that particular point in time. It was weeks later before I got this briefing, and I'm the chairman of the subcommittee that oversees this, and it will be months probably before the rest of the country sees these details, if at all.
I mean, why? I mean, you know, when you look at the tenuousness of that deal and how it was put together, why didn't the United States feel that we had leverage over Iran in this situation? I mean, and couldn't we have extracted an apology from them for the way that they treated our sailors, given the nature of the international law that surrounds this kind of incident?
Well, Martha, what we've seen with this administration is they've adopted the strategy of bowing down to bullies or ignoring bullies around the globe. And this is around the globe. It's not just Iran. The problem is when you do that, the bullies don't go away. They get stronger and stronger. So what's Iran doing? What would you do? If you get rewarded with a $100 billion check, you're going to increase that activity, and that's what they're doing. They're giving medals to the people that did this, building monuments to them, and again, their activity and their rhetoric is getting louder and more shrill. It's not having the effect that we should be trying to get from them, which is to make them behave more like an international player than kind of the actors that they're doing right now.
Congressman Randy Forbes, thank you very much, sir. We look forward to hearing more on this. Thank you.